The introduction page in the Book of Mormon says, after thousands of years, all were destroyed, except the Lamanites, and they are the principal ancestors of the American Indians. The Lamanites are described by Joseph as ancestors to the Israelites, inhabiting all of North and South America from sea to sea. In the book of Proverbs, we are told every word of God is pure. He is a shield to those who put their trust in him. Do not add to his words, lest he rebuke you, and you be found a liar.
If it could be proven absolutely that the American Indians were not descendants of the Lamanites, then Joseph Smith perpetrated a gigantic fraud in the very book he claimed was inspired from God, the Book of Mormon. Well, such irrefutable evidence has been found using one of our strongest technological discoveries, DNA.
Prisoners are routinely freed from crimes they supposedly committed many years before, when scientific experts prove conclusively that the DNA found on the victim did not match the DNA of the convict. DNA science now allows us to determine the relatedness of different populations around the world. When the Y chromosomes or mitochondrial DNA are tested in hundreds or even thousands of individuals from two different races, the results can be compared to see how similar or dissimilar these intact DNA markers are between people groups. In the Americas, DNA testing of over 5,000 Indians within 150 different tribes has been completed. When the overwhelming evidence was compiled, it was discovered that not one person contained DNA that was of Hebrew descent. The result? Indians were found to be of Asian descent.
It's not an issue. The DNA issue of whether Native Americans come from a Hebrew descent is not an issue. Once you get outside of Mormonism, it is not an issue. It is not a debate. Nobody is debating out in the scientific realm of whether or not Native Americans came from Israelites. Nobody, or Middle Easterners, nobody.
In order to be a Mormon, one must trust in the stories of Joseph Smith. And if these stories can be proven to have been fabricated or untrue, then the very basis of their faith is erroneous.
Modern science has conclusively proven Joseph to be a deceiver in his allegation that the Indians were descendants of the Hebrews. Sadly, this is just one of the many lies fabricated by Joseph Smith. For generations, scholars have shown irrefutable evidence that the Book of Mormon, as well as the Doctrine and Covenants and Pearl of Great Price, are fallible, faulty documents, contradicting each other as well as contradicting the Bible. It has been well documented that the Book of Abraham, which Joseph claimed was translated from an Egyptian language on papyri, was also completely false. We have not found one non-LDS Egyptologist who supports his translation.
I first became aware that the Book of Abraham had a problem when I'd been studying other Mormon literature and anthropology and realized that the story that Joseph Smith told about it just did not make sense, and it just did not correlate. There were so many other problems with the Book of Mormon and with other claims that Joseph Smith had made that the Book of Abraham seemed fantastic. And it struck me as particularly odd, since Egyptology is such a known science. Since the papyri had been rediscovered and were available for study, there should be Egyptologists being struck between the eyes like a bolt of thunder on the road to Damascus and converting to join the Mormon Church, once they found out that Joseph Smith had translated these before anyone could even translate Egyptian. Of course, the truth was that the Egyptologists knew perfectly well that the Book of Abraham contained nothing that Joseph Smith ever said it did.
Part of the papyri translated by Joseph allegedly shows a priest about to sacrifice Abraham on an altar. But in reality, it has been discovered that the papyri actually depicts a common funeral text many centuries after Abraham's time. Egyptologists uniformly agree on this conclusion, destroying Joseph Smith's translation of the Book of Abraham. We can only conclude from this evidence that this book was an elaborate fraud by Joseph Smith.